Ever since I got this Grizzly G1023, doesn't seem like there's a lot of sawdust on top of the blade, and I don't have a lot of vacuum in that pocket up on top there. So today I got some time to play with it, and I turned on my dust collector, and I noticed that there was like an awful lot of airflow right down there on the bottom around the hand wheel, where you have that pivoting, the area where the wheel can pivot, and it pulled in a piece of paper pretty good. So then I put a piece of plastic up on top, and you can see how once I blocked that off, I actually got enough airflow to bend that piece of plastic down around the blade. So basically there's no airflow when that bottom is open, and then once you block it off, it's okay. So I decided to try to make a plate to cover that over, and I just took a piece of cardboard, laid it inside the cabinet, traced the opening, and then I got a couple dimensions that I could off of it. And I went back to my router and programmed it up, and just, here I am cutting it out of a piece of 1/2-inch plywood that I had. I wish that I had just had a piece of like that magnetic strip that you get, that I could just cut a piece of that out and put on there, but I really didn't. So, this is all I had around, so I decided that I tried doing this first. So basically you just watch the router cut out the part once you program it. And, you can kind of see I've got the little rubber band clamps that I did a video on a while back that I use all the time. And this time I just tried a piece of styrofoam to set the board up off the table to use as a wasteboard. And that actually seems to be working pretty good, pretty cheap way to do it. So this is just cutting out the part, and there we are, everything's cut out, ready to go. Plywood comes out a little bit raggedy when you cut it out, so you got to take it over and just sand all those little burrs and things that are hanging off of it, just left over from the router cutting. So I just did a little bit of cleaning up on it with the sander, and I did cut this a little bit oversized because I wanted to be able to go back later. So here you can see it's a little bit too long, but I wanted to be able to fit it back around that shaft coming out for the knob later. So I went back on my little sander here and decided to sand it. And I realized pretty soon that I forgot to tighten the rubber drum up. I always loosen them up after I'm done using them, so I don't blow the sandpaper drums apart. So there I am. I got it all tightened back up now, and I sand the little profile in there so that I can clear that shaft now and have a pretty good tight fit in there. So there's a piece. Basically it just sits in there, and it's got a lip in there to keep it from sliding around. And with that in place, actually the airflow really went up big time when you turn on the dust collector. So I really think it's going to make a big difference, once I start using it. So, I needed a way to hold it on there, and I have these rare earth magnets laying around that I usually buy by the pack from Harbor Freight. And they're a little tiny magnet, but they're really a very strong magnet. And I decided that I'd just use some of them because this has to be easily removable for, when you want to tilt the blade. So I just went back and I drilled some counterbores in the back side of the piece there in that lip, and I just made them about a 64th deeper than the magnet is. I wanted it to be recessed a little bit below the surface because those things really they stick good when you put them on a piece of metal. And then I had some super glue gel laying around that I had gotten on a clearance somewhere, so I decided to use that. And I just put a drop in each hole, and then I took the magnet, pushed it in, and I don't know if the super glue will stick to the magnet or not, but by making the hole a little bit deeper, actually the super glue did come, once you push the magnet down, the super glue did find its way back up around the edge of the magnet in that little 1/16 of an inch gap there, so there is a little bit of super glue on the outside. So I'm hoping that that will keep these magnets from ever coming out. Time will tell though. But so here it is. Just, I used 3 of the magnets, and then I just went back and I sanded everything and just shot a quick coat of clear spray on it. And here I am ready to just do the final testing of it. And the magnets really work good. They just, it snaps in place and it holds there and it fits nice and tight. So there, really won't be any air leakage. And then I went back and I decided I'd do a couple cuts just for the video to see how it worked out here. And I saw right off in this first cut that, basically there was very little sawdust coming out. I used to have a ton of sawdust, blowing out over the top of the blade there, and really, in these rip cuts, they're not real big pieces or anything, but it seems to be only maybe about 10% of the sawdust that was coming out before. And then there's a cross cut, and you can see pretty much everything got sucked right back down that opening. So I really think in the end that, this is a little mod that I think is really worth doing for this saw. And, I just thought I'd share this, and I'll try it out for a while and see, how it really helps out. And if it does help keep the sawdust out of the air and also keep the cabinet a little bit clearer. And, like I said, it's really easy removable, and I think it's a worthwhile little plug to make there to, help keep your air cleaner. So I just thought I'd share this with you, and thanks for watching. Please subscribe.